Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 902. I had the white pieces and started off with c4. Before I go too far, I want to say that the chess engine really did not approve of my opening play in this game. So, well, let's point out where I went wrong. So knight f6, knight c3. I mean, one of the problems was I was just following a standard pattern. I was just trying to go for the Botvinnik setup with pawn to g3, pawn to e4, pawn to d3, knight e2, bishop e3, that kind of thing in castles. It's a fine setup against most things that black does, but it's not always the best way to play. And this kind of setup that black has, it looks very modest here, but it sort of makes it difficult to play the Botvinnik setup, and I should have paid a little more attention here. So normal moves here, well, d4 would transpose back into a queen's pawn opening. Could be a Nimzo Indian or something like that. To stay in English lines, you would play knight f3 here, and black could follow up with c5 or d5. But basically, knight f3 gives up on the whole Botvinnik setup idea. But that's what you need to play here, or e4 right away. Maybe that's an alternative too, but knight f3 is probably the strongest move here. So g3 already is a bit questionable, although this position is still about even. And black plays bishop e7, but to equalize, it seems like d5 is a pretty good weapon here. And black gets a decent position. Bishop e7 is not a bad move either, and we're just out of the opening book. I continue with the Botvinnik setup here. I go bishop g2, he castles. I go e4. And actually, I was thinking I've done pretty well here. I've managed to get it. But black manages also to counterattack with c6 and d5. So right here is kind of a missed opportunity. He hasn't done anything about my pushing this pawn forward. And if I were to push on with e5 right here and drive his knight back, then that's also a way to get a good position out of this opening, because black's play wasn't the most precise either. We're both making mistakes. We're out of the book and on our own, but that's how white could exploit black's play here. Anyway, as I said, I was just continuing with this routine setup. I continued knight d5, knight e2, he goes d5. I take, he takes, and then I played d4. At this point, I'm not getting a Botvinnik setup. It's pretty clear that the center is just kind of opening up and falling apart, which is not always bad. I mean, it's opening up at a point where my development isn't too bad, but I end up in an isolated queen's pawn position where my pieces are just wrong. It's the wrong placement for my pieces in an IQP position. So here is maybe my last chance to get something decent out of the opening. I could once again push on with e5. Now this time his knight can come forward. It doesn't have to go back. So this is not so bad for black, but not bad for white either. I can play d4 here, and he pretty much has to exchange this knight off. And there's an interesting position with, chances for both sides. So that would be the way to play this. Let's see. Instead, I went d4 and allowed the isolated queen's pawn position. And as I said, this is just not correct. I mean, there's nothing wrong per se with the isolated queen's pawn. Even the fianchetto, it's a bit unusual with an IQP, but it's potentially doing. Stop that. Potentially doing some good along this diagonal, maybe supporting this pawn coming forward. But the rest of my pieces are not well placed. Need to develop this bishop somehow. I need to get my rooks to the C and the E files. I need to get castled. And whereas black's setup here is pretty compact, his development of his pieces is pretty easy from this point forward. And so black just has an advantage here. And in the long run, this is going to be a weakness. I always have to worry about supporting that. So anyway, let's see. He went bishop g4 here. Not the strongest. Just I just wanted to show you one line. This is a computer line, because I don't know if a human would ever play this way, but because it looks like a kind of a funny position to me at the end. But this is how the computer plays. It would take here, and then throw on this check. I would block, So far that seems normal, but then the move rook to e8, attacking my bishop. This is where things get a little strange. So, I mean, his bishop is hanging and my bishop is hanging. Most people would either retreat this bishop or trade it out. But, well, you know, the counterattack is a valid strategy. So bishop takes, rook takes, and I castle. And, well, you know, these two pieces are still undeveloped over here on the queen side, but black does have a lot of pressure on my poor pawn in the center, and my pieces are a bit tied up, right? The knight and the queen can't really move because they have to hold on to that pawn, and the bishop needs to be repositioned. So black will have time to get his pieces out, and anyway, the chess engine likes black quite a bit in that position. It also likes black after this move. Basically, black has the advantage through most of this early part of the game here. Let's see. You know, I did consider kicking the bishop with h3, but I didn't like giving up my pawn. You can take and just grab this pawn. I can get castled. The chess engine says I have some compensation for the pawn here, so it's not giving up hope on white in this position, but I don't know. It's not too attractive to me. So I went f3, kicking the bishop back. But, well, technically h3 was better, at least, according to the engine. Anyway, he went to bishop f5. I get castled. He goes knight bd7, yeah, getting his other knight out. So some logical play here for a while. Bishop f4. Then queen b6, not so liked by the chess engine, but still keeping an edge for black. The engine preferred knight d5 immediately. So after queen b6, I went b3, protecting my pawn. But I could have considered, and the chess engine likes this move, knight to c3. Still, you know, still keeping an edge. But one idea here is that the knights defend each other. So if the queen grabs the b pawn, the rook can play rook to b1 and grab black's b pawn. So it's not really losing material. But anyway, I played b3. And so let's see. Now he gets a knight d5. I go rook to c1, so I'm slowly trying to get my pieces into a more correct position for an isolated queen's pawn type of position. Let's see. He goes ahead and grabs his bishop. Yeah, I didn't want to waste any more time trying to find a square for the bishop, but now black has the bishop pair advantage in addition to his other advantages, well-placed pieces and pressure on my isolated pawn here. Let's see. He went bishop a3 here. Oh, that's right. He started poking at my rook. I lifted the rook up. He went, oh yeah, I went all the way to c4. That's right, rook to c4. I was having some funny ideas about chasing the bishop around. He went knight to e5 here. Yeah, funny move, taking advantage of the pin. So heads up play from black here. He's actually done well all through this part of the game. And it's not until the next move right here that the situation changes and suddenly white is better, and it's because of his move bishop to b2. So he should just retreat this bishop back to e7, and you know, my rook is kind of weirdly placed out here, and my knights, I don't know where they're going. Just a good position for black, and white's pieces are all awkward. So that's the way to play it. Instead, this bishop b2 move, this was like a push too far. He was like he was playing actively with his pieces and getting them all into good squares, or at least active squares, you know, around my king, and making various threats. But this is just a mistake here. And in fact, there's an immediate tactic here. If you want to pause the video here and see if you can spot the idea, find the best move for white. Okay, I missed this one in the game. I'm giving the answer away now, but there's a couple ways to take advantage of the position of the bishop. The simplest one is just queen d2, and the bishop has nowhere to go. This square is at the moment adequately covered by the queen and the rook, and yeah, the bishop has no other squares to go to. So a simple bishop trap that I overlooked there. So knight d6, not a bad move, but not. You know, I'm just missing on this tactic. And then, let's see, he went bishop to d7, retreating his bishop away from my knight. He actually did not need to do that. Or, well, he could have retreated in this direction and kept control of some squares in my camp, so that would be a better retreat. And an important point to notice here is that I can't play this move I intended, knight to c4, because it shields the rook from defending the d-pawn. So after knight to c4, he can just play queen takes d4 and have a good position. So there was nothing to fear over on this side of the board. Let's say to play my continue, knight takes g6, knight takes g6, and knight takes b7. This is a funny tactic, but based on the same idea, the queen takes the knight. I can play queen d2, and once again, this bishop is under attack, and it has nowhere to go. So I win a pawn that way. So I'm still better here. After bishop b2, white manages to stay better, even though I miss the most obvious moves. But anyway, yeah, he went bishop b2. I went knight d6. He went bishop d7. So that kind of helps me, this retreating move. I play king h1 to unpin this pawn, so his knight has to move. And he went c5 first, attacking my rook. And yeah, this tactic doesn't work. But also he loses material in other lines because he has trouble rescuing this bishop. This bishop has nowhere to go. So that is, he did need to play some kind of extraordinary move to try and untangle his pieces at this point. And c5, I guess, was as good a try as any. So I go ahead and take the knight. And I was expecting him just to take the rook, and so I was going to get, and then I was going to take back, and it would be 2 pieces for a rook, and he would have an extra pawn over here on the queen side. So some compensation. Let's see, he threw in bishop takes e5 first, and that gave me a chance to play knight to c4. Yeah, I don't know if this helped or hurt, but I just didn't see it coming. So he moved his queen, and I decided to trade off this bishop. There was actually another move here which is pretty clever, which is to throw in the move knight to d5. So the queen probably wants to stay in touch with this bishop, otherwise it's just hanging. And so the queen goes back here, but now this bishop is undefended. So I can throw in knight to e7 check, the king moves, and I can play queen takes bishop, and I'm just massive amounts of material up here. So that would have been a clever idea. Knight d5, kicking the queen back, followed by knight e7 check, and picking up this loose bishop here. Not so obvious to me. I guess if you sit and look at this position for a while and try all the moves in your head, you could find something like that. But that's pretty clever. Anyway, I just took the bishop, and he grabbed on a4. I took here. I had a desperado move with the knight, which would have been better. My knight is hanging, his bishop is hanging, and so I can snag one more pawn by taking on f7, and then after queen takes, I take back. So it's similar to the game, but I have one extra pawn. Let's see, instead of queen takes f7, he could also retreat his bishop, but then I can retreat my knight, and yeah, I have managed to snag a pawn. So it's pawns are even, and I just have 2 pieces for a rook. In the game, I had 2 pieces for a rook, but he also had an extra pawn. So, yeah, I grab the bishop, he grabs the knight. And let's continue on a few moves. This is a long game. I keep some kind of slight edge. The 2 pieces are better than the rook. And I can slowly get back the material, so I can kind of build up my advantage. This move b6 here was a mistake that white played. So there's another tactic if you want to see if you can spot the tactic here. This is a little easier to see, I think. Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. It's another double knight move. It's knight here with check. Watch out for these knight moves with tempo. Say the king comes in and attacks the knight. Then you get to this square and you're forking the 2 rooks. So you get to the forking square with tempo. Another tactic I missed. Let's see, I'm just trying to unwind so I don't get mated on the back rank here. So I push h3, and well, the game continues for a while. He gives his king some lift too. Maybe not as necessary, but a reasonable precaution, and helps get his king into the game. I'm trying to destroy his pawns over here on the queen side to prevent him from getting some kind of pawn roller here. That would be black's best chance in this position. And I think I play this part reasonably well. I do manage to round up a pawn, but I'm going to have to give my outside pawn back in the long run. And this is a position where white is just a little bit better. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and here he was getting short on time and played rook takes g3. So it's game over at that point. Best play, the game would continue with something like this. Rook d1 check. Chase my king up. Maybe rook over to a1 so he can gather this pawn. I take his pawn and he takes my pawn. And, it's 3-on-3 over here. I still have 2 pieces against a rook. And, I can hope to try and maneuver around and round up his pawns. If I can win on one of those pawns, then I can have realistic chances of winning the game. And, I do have a target here on f7. If I could get my knight here and my bishop here, my rook here, I could pile up on that pretty quickly. But he also can defend it, bring a rook back. So, hard to say. And if I leave my king too exposed, of course, the 2 rooks against my king will be mating. So I also have to be careful here. So probably it's a kind of position that black could hold with good play, although with an advantage to white, and white can press. But anyway, yeah, he moved too quickly here. He's low on time. And after this, he's just a piece down, a whole rook down. So I have 2 pieces. Yeah, so he's actually 2 pieces down because I was 2 pieces for a rook. He lost a rook for basically nothing. So now I'm just 2 pieces up, and I stay up the rest of the game, but he managed to drag this game out for quite a long time. I'm not going to comment on any of these moves because, there may be 1 or 2 interesting moments, but basically I'm just winning the whole time. He just kept playing these old tricks, harassing my pieces and making it slow for me to set things up. But gradually I bring my pieces around and get them to a point. I just have to concentrate the bishop and the knight on some of these pawns over here, and I can round them up. He can't possibly defend them. And then after the pawns are gone, he has no counterplay. I can proceed to mate the king. But he is playing all these little tricks here. I had to kind of struggle to find moves at some point. Right here, he's skewering my 2 pieces. But I can defend one with check and then move the other away. Oh, I could have moved the knight away, but I realized this also defends the knight. If he takes the knight, I have rook to. So if he plays rook takes knight, I have rook here with a discovered check on his king, and that picks up the rook. So he can't take my knight, and I managed to defend it this way and round up the last pawn. And then finally, that's right, this was the final thing where he walked into this check, this this fork. So let's see, what was his last move before that? Yeah, going here. I mean, that wasn't forced, but I was still winning in any case. It was just kind of dragging it out there, maybe hoping to defeat me on time or something. Anyway, it was a fun game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you later. Bye.